World. It's Nick with Nick's forecast, 31st of May. Hope you guys had a good Memorial Day here and hot in the Midwest. Anyways, basically, I just want to talk about some different things today. First off, this on Fox about the housing is basically dropping in prices, and sellers are having to drop their price in hot areas like Coral Gables, Florida, Sacramento, Atlanta, San Antonio, Phoenix, Seattle, blah, blah, blah. A lot of areas in the United States. And basically, as the interest rate changed, inflation has gone up, and all the other stuff I've been talking about for a while. That's kind of the kind of what the deal is right now. And so it's just, it's going to just keep happening. It's actually great for investors and buyers because they start being on the lookout for deals because stuff is starting to drop. In Florida, Coral Gables, I think, went down 33%, according to the article. It was dropped. And some other places have gone way down to Sacramento. And it's good because they happen in commercial too. Opportunities for investors and buyers. Sellers, your opportunities, to sell. It's going to be a longer sales period, but that's kind of how it goes. Anyways, I see my cat Blue. Anyways, actually my cat Punky. Anyways, I thought it was my other cat. Anyways, so there's going to be opportunities to go ahead and make some stuff happen in that, and a lot of it's just up to you and get it. And remember, finance is going to change. Finance is going to change like you won't believe every time it changes more. And also the bond market. What I'm worried about is it's just going to bust out like 2008. It's going to just drop like a rock, and it could happen. They've already been talking about it. Articles all over Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal and other money websites and stuff like that. So it could happen. It's just something you can't prepare for because you never know when it's going to happen. It'll just happen. The rug will get pulled out. Stock market's playing the up and down roller coaster game, so it's hard to predict unless you're way in the inside somewhere, up at some hedge fund or something like that. And so you just never know. And all the stuff is out there in the press, so no one can hide from it because it's right there. It's in plain view. And every day there's more and more articles. Drudge Report had a bunch of stuff out today and all the craziness going on. He had more stuff, gas prices, this is that, pessimism's growing, blah, 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 blah. So, and there's just things to take into account. Hold on here. Let's see. Eek. Hold on, something here. Something didn't show up. I thought it had showed up for today's cast. A sec here. Let's go. All right. Now, what I'm going to talk about today is just you see too much on television shows, but also, too, you see it too much. You got too much power play going on by real estate agents and trying to act like they're hardcore, especially ones on the quote-unquote the top of the game, ones that are making $1 million or more in commission and trying to act high six figures. And basically you see too much of this on these TV shows, and a lot of it's just a bunch of crock. Because right now, I'm going to give you some strategies here as the market drops like a rock in a lot of areas. Basically, as a seller, you can't be as hardcore as you were getting 4, 5, 10, 15 offers. Seattle, someplace we're getting 100 offers. Always a seller's decision, but being hardcore, like a lot of these TV shows, like game shows, try to produce, basically pretend to be, isn't happening. So a lot of these agents that are trying to make the power moves, that ain't going to happen. And you're hardcore, like you're not negotiating your position. If you get one offer on a house, that may be your best and final offer. You may try to come back at a counter. They're going to say, screw you, because I would. And I've seen that game played before. And you have to, if you're an agent, you need to talk to your sellers. I'm talking to sellers and buyers too. An investor is a little bit of a different deal, especially if they're buying commercial. But it's a little, but still, it's a little bit different deal in some ways because investors are just going to lowball out. But as a buyer of the market changing, you got a chance to lowball out. And a lot of these selling agents, in other words, they work for the seller, the listing agents. Basically, they are going to try to play hardcore and play all these psych BS and NLP BS games and all that other stuff. So as a buyer's agent, you need to step up and get in the agent's face, because I used to do that all the time. I used to have a lot of chats with a lot of agents, brokers. You had nothing on me because I was making figures a year. You couldn't say squat. And I'll give you an example. One time I went in this one real estate office on a deal I was doing, and this agent was trying to play these games, and the damn managing broker didn't want to come out and talk to me, and had sent some stupid associate broker out. I said, okay. Told the association broker, I go, don't worry, your damn managing broker of that office, who's also one of the part owners, you get an attorney. And basically, he got a letter from my attorney, and he freaked because he was going to pull his license with the state and file a complaint. And then I had the buyer had their attorney write basically that they were going to file a complaint against the listing agent and the buyer's agent. I think this happened in 2005. Anyways, it was just, I mean, at that month, I think I did 60, 70 deals, 40 loans, and I did 30 real estate deals. But anyways, I was representing the buyer, but I had a listing agent that was trying to be hardcore, and the market was good, but they were still trying to be hardcore and try to do all the stupid stuff. And I said, no, I'm not playing that game. And basically, that managing broker got schooled, and so did the agent got schooled too, when they threatened to have their licenses pulled with complaints to the state. And they tried to file a complaint at the multiple for me, and I got that stuff thrown out in 2 seconds because I had basically a broker that ran the office that had some, and basically, so as a buyer's agent, you have to not be afraid. You can stand up. If you're a buyer and you have some timid agent, not going to happen. Seller too, you need a listing agent to stand up, but you got to be realistic. I always set the expectation when I did listings with the seller that you're going to have to expect it, especially if the market's going. Like, you're going to get lowball offers. I said you may get lowball offers in the high, because you may be one block off an area. Let's say it's 10 blocks or 5 blocks where it's really hot, but the block you're on isn't hot. And it happens all the time because of views, waterfront, particular area, whatever. So things like this can happen. So the power play by the agents is kind of crap, especially by listing agents trying to play the psychological BS. It's just not going to work. A lot of it's just, well, we have it and you don't. Fine. Here's what I always tell the listing agents that get stupid like that. That's okay, because we're going to write up another offer on another property. And they say, okay, go ahead, blah, blah, blah. You know what? 3-4 days later, when nothing's worn on their property, 5 days later, a week later, they come back. I tell them, now we wrote an offer on another property. See ya. And what I always did as an agent is, as a real estate agent, what I did is I always made sure that we always had backup properties just in case. And I was told not to get too emotional about it because it's just nothing, not to get too emotionally attached, because you may not get the house, and things like this may happen. And all of a sudden they come back and the buyers are saying, screw you, I'm not going to that house, because I set it up for the buyers. Or even if it's a seller, you need to set up realistic expectations. And you're going to say, well, what's a realistic expectation? Blah, blah. Well, the problem is that in a high market, it's one thing. When it's moving, then it's not so bad. And a lot of these agents right now, especially been coming in the last 6-7 years, let's say 10 years, aren't very good agents. They're not. And I've seen comments on a lot of the top trainer sites like Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, some other ones that I've seen. I'm just giving examples of those. Some other ones I've talked about. And some of these trainers will tell you that a lot of these agents aren't trained because they've had low interest rates for 10 years. It's been 3% or lower, and they haven't had experienced high interest rates like when I started. And interest rates were running 8 to 9%, and I'd say about 8 3/4 was about them. That was just for a stupid conventional loan. But 8.5 went down, got down to 7 3/4. Everybody thought that was a big deal. 7.5 for like 2 days and went right back up to 8%. So all this BS. They need to raise the rates anyways because of the inflationary stuff. They had an article in Drudge Report, front page today, right on the front and on a bunch of other places. I think it was a CNBC article about it. So and you got gas prices and blah, 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 and all this other stuff that's going on. But trying to be the proof as an agent to try to make yourself look good doing it because it's a power game. But remember that you represent that seller. You can't make decisions for them. That's why I hate these TV shows. They have these agents making decisions for the seller or for the buyers, and you do not have the authority to do that. If they give you permission to do certain things, if you cleared it, that's one thing. Or like a lot of these agents doing stuff over the phone when nothing's in writing. That's right off the bat. It's illegal anyways, and you can't do that. And I know it violates a lot of multiple rules across the U.S. These TV shows, and people expect that. I remember this one agent that worked in an office that I worked in a long time ago, and she used to do some administrative stuff a long time ago. I don't know if she's still in the game. I couldn't stand her. She was one of these people that got me fired when I first started this company. She's a real, can't stand her. I won't mention her name or company or anything like that. But anyways, couldn't stand her. And she was incompetent anyway. So, anyways, I was at a random teriyaki place in Seattle, long time ago, 20 years ago. And basically, she was with her, whatever people she was with. And she was talking on the phone, trying to do a deal over the phone with no paperwork, trying to negotiate and do all the stuff with no paperwork on the phone. She didn't contact her sellers or her buyers, whatever she was talking at the time, and she was just making all these decisions which she didn't have the authority to do because it's not in writing and on paper. It has to be in writing and on. And there's one thing I learned a long time ago, nailed in a lawsuit that I got nailed, is that when you do a front page and change it, instead of writing an addendum, you should do two things. And you need to tell this, especially you agents, but if you're a buyer listening or a seller, especially a buyer, if you're doing or even a seller for that matter, if you're going to do a change, do a brand new front page. And also, as you do a brand new front page for your purchase and sale agreement, when it's a price change or finance or whatever, and every purchase and sale is different, needs multiple, you get 3 to 6 pages. Also, too, in addition, an addendum too, so it's doubled up, so you know what's going on. And then you cross out the one page, and basically, that's it. It's part of the contract, but you keep that paperwork. But the thing is, it'll come out of the contract when it goes to the funder, because the mortgage broker doesn't want to see it. They want to see a clean contract. Now, there are times where some of the funders that the mortgage broker is using will use that. They just want to see it in there. Most of the time, don't you always take it out because it changes. As soon as you write an addendum, it changes. In commercial real estate, it's hardcore, and I've really gotten into it with some of the agents because in commercial it's brutal. It's a lot more brutal than residential. And the thing is, as soon as you sign an addendum, that contract has changed. I mean, that's end of any contract, but it's worse than commercial. And the commercial can get really vulturous down in there and get hardcore. I know because I've got into it with some of the agents. I had to take a couple agents to the state and have some of their licenses get close to getting revoked. So, because a lot of the agents do a lot of illegal stuff. And I've been accused of it before because I was a high producing agent. And I know a ton of other agents that I have too, but we'd always be able to beat everything because our paperwork was scored away. And stuff never got to court and never went beyond pretty much anything. A bunch of lawyers arguing, passing paperwork, doing a stupid deposition here or there that didn't even get used because the deals got settled out. So I've been through the ringer, and actually, if you have an agent that's been through the ringer of that's the agent you with. The reason I'm saying that is because they just got more experience. They know the law better. They know how the paperwork better. Any agent there's some agents that are okay that have gone through, but most agents that are high producing that are making over 7 figures or something. It's just the way it is. It's the law of averages. You're going to get nailed for stuff. I know some agents that are making close to 7 figures, high 6 figures. They've gone through the legal wrangles too. They're making $500,000 or more a year. Most agents aren't making more than 45 a year. Not even that. And there's 4 million agents. Don't listen to the National Association of Realtors. They're wrong. They're saying 2.5 million. I'd say it's probably 4.5 million agents in the U.S., maybe 5. Because most of the agents that do it are only part-time. In a hot market, it's a little bit different deal because there's a lot less listings generally. That's just usually the case because they get taken off the market pretty quick. And so a lot of the agents that have listings, especially if they're working with builders, more power to you because you can totally work it. But the thing is not being so stupid and being a power player, not being being a jerk. And a lot of these agents are doing that, and you have to put them in their place. And I used to go off and manage brokers that I worked for before because they're weak and they wouldn't stick up for you or do anything else. That's a problem too, and you can't be afraid to do it because a lot of managing brokers or broker owners won't stick up for their agents, and it's a serious problem. And also too, they have insurance in errors and misinsurance and all the rest of the stuff. Most of the time it never gets to that. Most of the stuff the broker's talking gets solved, and that's it. But the problem is you got some agents that get really stupid on the power moves and that. And also too, there's a lot of emotion that gets involved in a lot of deals with buyers, not so much sellers. And so sometimes sellers, yeah, but with buyers. And basically an agent that's scored away has been doing a while is going to be able to diffuse that. A lot of agents that have had their licenses like myself over 25 plus years, and they're real kind of the average right now. I think it's running a lot of the agents in the business now started in the 90s, like I did. So a lot of them have, anywhere 30 plus years or more in the industry. That's kind of the 7 years. Making, high 6 figures, 7 figures a year, but it's really not that many because you got a lot of people that are new that started with 3 and blah, 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 blah. I mean, the highest agent producing around where I'm at maybe does 110, 115 deals a year, which is okay. I mean, I've done a hell of a lot more than that, but average wise, but that's pretty good for this area. You have some agents up at the Lake of the Ozark where they've done pretty well, for doing it. They've been at it, but they're limited because a lot of them have mortgage companies here that are real limited on what they, and a lot of it, you blame the broker or owners for them because they don't have as many, basically, they don't have as many funders, as we like to call it, to go to. But back to the power play, these are things you have to think about. If you're a real estate agent, you need to school your people. If you're a buyer or seller, these are things you need to think about too, is you need to talk about that. Also too, when you're doing a deal, and there's a high, mid, and low kind of for everything that's on in real estate. And, and basically, you kind of know where you need to know where the range is at. That's why, going over as with a buyer, you need to make a CMA, cost market analysis. You should have one on the house. At least print the stuff off, the stuff that's sold that's comparable, show them right on the spot, do the full listing, what's for sale, what's pending, what expired in a hot market. You're not going to see anything. In the other areas, you just need to look at that stuff before you make a decision in what you're doing. A lot of agents aren't doing that now. They're just kind of throwing it out there. A lot of buckaroos around here that do that. They just throw stuff out and they don't put any information. I know one lady that's basically talking about listing her house and her properties and blah, 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 blah. And the agent hasn't showed her anything. He just came in with a price and said, here, sign this, do this. She didn't do it, but it's just, it shows recklessness, especially with an agent that's been doing it over 20 years. Really recklessness. And I've seen it with other agents in different locales. So, and I've seen it just being in Seattle market for so long because I grew up in Seattle. So, you see it. And, and right now there's a lot of lawsuits in Seattle against agents, whether they were a listing agent or a buyer's agent representing the buyers. There's a ton of lawsuits. And also, you look at the state, there's a lot of stuff in the state stuff that's there. And, a lot of mortgage brokers, a lot of real estate agents, broker owners, that kind of thing. It's thing is, it's a hot market and things get real competitive and things happen and this and that. I know one agent who lives in another part of the country, he had his own company. I know because I helped him basically when he started, because he said, call me up every damn day about it. Basically, get all these calls all the time, blah, 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 blah. And, but anyways, he got in some hot water for doing some stuff with the multiple. He even got threatened taking the state. He got some stuff. He was a high producer. He did 200 deals a year. His average price range was probably about $700,000 a pop, maybe 750. And he was in a high end area where he did, but he, like me, he worked in multiple counties like all agents do, and he was making money left and right. But things happen. That's just the way it goes. You got to work with it. He was bringing down a couple million a year. He was doing his thing. So, I don't hold it begrudge any agent on that, because this is the part of the game, and you just got to roll with it. As a buyer or a seller, don't be afraid of that. Actually, be good. I know another agent in Seattle who's one of the he probably does 170 deals a year at least, maybe 200, and he's one of the best callers I've ever seen on the phone. I remember going to do a thing with him with Mike Ferry years ago, 22 years ago, 23 years ago. It was a long time ago, 99, 2000. He's still one of the best cold callers. He still nails it. But he got in the state. He got his license suspended for freaking a year on some BS stuff. But he's been through the legal ringer, and he knows. But his stuff is sharp. He understands finance, understands how it works. He knows the game because he owns a bunch of properties too. He works out of his house. The real estate company he went for basically closed a while back, and it was a high performing. They had a few offices, high performing franchise. Now he's at another franchise, but actually the franchise he's at now, the owner that owns that one, she was one of the first deals I did when I did real estate, and when I used to pluck off the phone, and she's been doing it like 35 years, probably 200, 150, 200 deals a year. And she owns an office, but she knows the game inside and out. See, these are real experienced brokers. So I'm saying to you, have an experienced broker scored away. Now, having a new broker, is not a bad thing either. But problem with the new broker is that they don't know the power play in the stupid psychological neuro-linguistic programming stuff that a listing agent might do, a buyer's agent might do, and they try to threaten you and this and that, and they don't know how to stay afoot. Then you might have a weak broker owner or broker manager that's in charge of the office that can't stand up, especially if they have a small office and they don't have tons of money. That's always the thing. They always try to play that power move. So the power move thing is kind of lame in a lot of ways. It's non-productive, and it doesn't help the buyer or the seller, because your goal is to put a deal together so both parties mutual success. And so the power play stuff, you just see it. Don't ignore the stuff you see on the TV. It's crap. A lot of them. I mean, because a lot of the stuff is all scripted, and they play for the cameras. So a lot of it's like, I'd say about the least scripted one that I saw was $1 million listing in Miami. That was probably, I don't know, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, whenever they went on. They had some agents on there, but it wasn't as scripted as the other one in New York and the one in San Francisco and the one in LA. It wasn't as scripted as those. A couple other ones about Los Angeles, because Los Angeles real estate, when you're down there in Bay Area too, I mean, pretty much the whole state, because you can have Orange County, San Diego. A lot of it varies, but it's down there. There's one agent down there in San Diego that worked at a major franchise. She was the number one in California. She still is. And she's the only one. She's number 2 in the nation. She's just behind one other agent guy in Texas. And so all she does is pretty much 85% of her business is new construction. And it's all basically San Diego, LA County, San Diego County, LA County, Orange County, I think Ventura County. And I'm missing one county in there. Anyways, but most of the stuff she does is new construction. And she's a major franchise, blah, 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 blah. And she basically was number 2 in the nation. And so, that's why I kind of laugh at all the stuff they hear. She's had her own team of assistants, just like me and my cousin had. And we had like 7, 8 assistants at any one time, buyers agents, and this person doing this and this and that, because we're doing a lot of loans. So, that's kind of the deal. But, like I said before, the power play, my cousin used to just wring agents' necks, used to laugh. And it's just, I do the same thing, because I wouldn't put up with any of the crap. Just wouldn't. And basically, you learn over time. You just need to, sometimes you have to chill out and take a step back, because a lot of agents try to play power. There was one agent that we knew that I tried doing a deal with at the high school with, and she was being a complete nitfit, doing a deal and trying to play this power play. I said, really? I called her broker up, tune real quick, when I threatened to broker and this agent to the state and had her license removed because she was acting, basically acting, she wasn't acting on behalf of the seller because and she was doing stuff on her own, trying to make these power moves, and that's it. And so this stuff happens all the time. Real estate is just one thing. As a real estate agent, you know, watch for seller and buyer. When you're a mortgage broker, you're not dealing with that because you're dealing directly. Mortgage brokers are really directly with the buyer. They deal with the listing agent sometimes, not too often. Listing agents sometimes tries to pull a power move, and they try to call in and do all this stupid stuff, and it's really retarded, and I don't know why they do it. But I think it's just these power moves. Anyways, if you got any questions, go to nickforecast.com, go to Facebook at nickforecast, or if you need to inquire about funding for commercial, or if you want to build something or non-owner occupied loans for commercial, especially commercial stuff, that's like primarily the most, or if you want to build a mall or building, something like that, or if you need business funding or something cool like that, go to cobrafunds.biz and go from there. Anyways, guys, have a good one. Until next time.